So this is a new generation Watermaker. It uses a medium pressure pump and an amplifier to get the 52 bar required to push the seawater through the membranes. Okay, so we have a seawater pickup, runs through a 50 mesh strainer, runs through a non-return valve, and on that side we have your pressurized fresh water, a white active filter housing, a solenoid, and that fresh water is then, when that solenoid is open, is then pushed through to the pump head. When that solenoid is closed, seawater is sucked through to the pump head. The pump head then drives that seawater through orange filter housing, which is a 5 micron filter, accumulator, and into the amplifier.
Okay.
So the top part would be the amplifier.
And what is the pressure of this section right here?
So on this unit, it depends on battery voltage and salinity and seawater temperature. The colder the seawater, the higher the pressure, but around 7.5 bar.
Okay.
Okay. Then you have two components. So amplifier, that increases the pressure to 52 bar, which pushes it through these two membranes. You get your freshwater product coming out there, and you get your brine discharge going out there. So the recovery rate in seawater is about 10%. So 10% freshwater, 90% brine.
Okay. And those are just paper filters? Those filters?
No, it's blown polypropylene.
Okay, that one and that one.
But yeah, that's an active carbon filter.
Okay, that's the carbon filter.
Right?
Okay.
And that's a 5 micron filter.
Okay.
Replacement every 6 to 12 months. 6 months if you're filling up with marina water, because you're utilizing the carbon to neutralize the chlorine, because membranes don't like chlorine.
Correct.
This is your Watermaker brine discharge. Now that always has to be open. The only time you're going to close that is when you want to divert your pickling solution down into the hoses in the bilge.
Okay.
Okay, so when you're pickling, that would be closed. Otherwise, that would always be open.
Okay.
Okay. If you start the Watermaker with that closed, the system will build pressure, and that clear hose
will probably break.
It will definitely burst.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
It may also stop itself. So to power up the Watermaker, flick that switch over. Okay. Closer so you. Okay. So from the pump head outlet, you have that seawater coming up through this blue hose into the inlet of the orange filter housing, which contains a 5 micron filter, through past the accumulator, pressure transducer, which gives you your pressure readout on the panel.
And what does the accumulator do?
Explain now. And then the seawater then goes into the amplifier over there.
Okay.
Okay. So during the cycling of the unit, there's a spool that travels left and right in this top valve block. Momentarily, when the spool's in the center position, the seawater coming from the pump physically can't go past that point. So the accumulator absorbs that additional volume of water whilst the spool is blocking the port, and as soon as the spool moves off that port, the water then rushes back into the unit.
Okay.
Okay. On this side, we have your pressurized freshwater system coming into your white filter housing, which contains your active carbon filter. On the outlet, we have that black solenoid valve, and from there, that fresh water is conveyed down to the left-hand side of the T-piece for your flushing, and for the solenoid opens every time the unit is started, and when for flushing. Okay. On the actual unit, there's the most important part here is what we call the decompression valve, and that's just generally finger tight in a clockwise direction. Clockwise.
Right, yep.
Yeah. So when you want to purge air from the system, you just open up that by half a turn.
Okay.
When you're picking the system, you're going to open up by full turn. Okay.
Okay.
When you introduce air into the system, in other words, a filter change, you're also going to use what we call the automatic startup procedure. And that also will will request that you open up the decompression valve a half a turn.
Okay.
Right, so what we've done is I've put back the white filter housing this morning, so we're going to start the unit with a automatic startup procedure.
Okay.
Okay? Right, so we're going to make sure that the grey ball valve is open. We're going to open that a half a turn, and we're going to go into the menu, so the first page of the menu, and we're going to start the unit using the automatic startup procedure. So what this does is it uses a sequence of fresh water, as you can hear your freshwater pumps running now, fresh water on and off to purge the system of air. Okay? It will also request that you open the pressure valve, which I've done already. Yeah. So this lasts about 1 minute and 40 seconds. And this procedure would be used every time you change filters.
Okay.
Or also, if you've pickled the unit, when you come back to use the boat, I would start the unit up using the automatic startup procedure.
Okay.
So that will expel the chemical from the air and also expel any air.
Okay. I'll just wait.
It cannot escape because of the pressures involved. So it has to, we have to depressurize the unit. At this point, we're not making any fresh water. The freshwater pumps have now started again because the solenoid's opened up.
Okay. So why is, when you change the filter, do you open up half, and when you done pickling the whole time, the whole turn?
Because what a half is enough, but when you pickle, you don't want any of that solution to go through to your tanks. And then what happens is the fresh water will go to your tanks, but the solution then it gets more and more concentrated as less and less fresh water is left in the bucket.
Okay.
And we also bypass the pressure monitoring during pickling.
Okay.
So over here now it says closed pressure valve. So we're going to close that in a clockwise direction. Okay. So that's the automatic startup procedure. So on the home page of the screen we have start, stop, and flush. We also have the model of Schenker. We have the system status. We have total hours and total liters. We have salinity. On the first menu page we have production time. So this is when you press start, it runs for the preset time. So you can change that time by touching the hour button, anywhere between 1 and 6 hours. Automatic startup procedure, we've just done. Periodic wash, so you can change this between 6 and 10 days. When you press start here, if you press start at 11 o'clock in 8 days time, it will automatically turn itself on, wash itself for a minute, turn itself off. But you have to have at least 13 liters of fresh water in your tanks, and your pressurized freshwater system has to be on. Manual wash is a default 10-minute wash. So this, when selected, will put the unit into a 10-minute freshwater flush. The disadvantage here is that 10 minutes will use 130 liters of water.
Okay, that's a lot of
So
water.
you can stop it at any point though. So
Okay.
typically I would use somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes max. On the second menu page, we have what we call the bypass switch and the bypass valve. So these will only really be used when you're pickling. If you activate these, now you have no pressure monitoring on the system. So
Okay.
if you have a low pressure scenario or a high pressure scenario, the system will not turn off. Ordinarily, it will turn off. So if a pipe came off, let's say after the pump, this pressure switch would indicate that you don't have the required pressure, and it would turn off after 20 seconds. As again, if you had a blockage somewhere, let's say the brine didn't have a discharge, and it was before a pipe burst, it would actually turn itself off on a high pressure scenario.
Okay.
Okay, so now we have no pressure monitoring. But for the pickling scenario, because we're going to monitor the salinity of your freshwater product, we need to exclude the diverter valve as well.
Okay.
Okay, so for pickling, both of those will be on, but the default would both be off. Right. To start the system from a manual start, where the system will run indefinitely until you physically turn it off, we're going to use the start button on the home screen. But before we do that, we always need to make sure that the freshwater product has somewhere to go. So one or both of these manifolds need to be open. One feeding your port tank, one feeding your starboard freshwater tank.
Yep.
Okay? Right, so now we press start. The solenoid opens, freshwater product rushes in. The Watermaker pump starts. This is just to bleed any air from the system initially. At this point, I would recommend that you press the flushing button, so that whenever the unit is now stopped, it's going to automatically put itself into a 1 minute flush, freshwater flush. Okay, so now the Watermaker pump is running. We've got voltage, we've got pressure of 4 bar, because we haven't reached the higher sort of seawater pressure, because we've got fresh water in the system still. We've got salinity is waiting, so we are currently diverting your freshwater product into the brine discharge and overboard. And you have your production output. Okay, so salinity is now okay.
Yep.
And divert to discharge will disappear. Okay. Now we're pushing the freshwater product to your manifold and to your tanks. Okay. I want to go down in there. I'll just show you quickly. So the freshwater product comes out of the bottom of the membranes on this side of the manifold. It runs down the back. It comes up into that elbow. It goes through a flow meter. Then the black block with the blue fitting at the bottom is the salinity probe. And then on this side, we've got the diverter valve with the solenoid. So initial startup, the solenoid is powered up and it diverts that fresh water back into your brine discharge at the back. When the salinity is at the right level, it powers down and the freshwater product comes through to your manifold.
Okay. And so now we're actually producing normal water headed to tanks. Is that correct?
That thud that you hear is perfectly normal. I refer to it as the heartbeat, and that's the water. As the spool moves off the center point, the water falls back into the system.
It's just like a thumping noise. Clicking.
For your production rate and your pressure, which is there and in the corner of the system.
Okay. So that displays that in both places. One's the physical meter.
Yes.
And the electronic.
Okay. So we want to stop the unit. So we'll just simply press the stop. The unit now sets itself into a 1 minute freshwater flush.
That uses, you said 13 liters?
Correct.
Okay.
So if we want to produce water for a preset period, the production time is now set for 3 hours. When we start the unit here, it's now going to set the unit into a 3-hour production. We can press flush. So at the end of the 3 hours, it's automatically going to put itself into a 1 minute flush and turn itself off. So again, the same sequence. Fresh water is flooding into the system. We've got a low pressure. We're waiting for the salinity level to be achieved. And we are diverting the freshwater product into the brine discharge.
Okay.